Veritas Aquitus by Bones Boy 15, Chapter 30, Evaluations. Well, I'm thoroughly impressed, Brett. There's not even a hint of bruises left. The medical memory blessed of genius that was Tsunade said to Naruto as she manhandled his jaw and turned his head different directions. The teen was seated shirtless in Beacon's medical building. It was time for the physical and mental evaluation for the Vital Festival. Tsunade took over most of Beacon teams, something that Ospen was more than ready to back up, despite her notably vacuum ties, particularly when it came to Naruto and his team. Granny, with how hard you're grabbing my face, I might get another, Naruto mumbled. He grimaced when Tsunade tightened her grip. She was naturally strong as he was, and could send someone's cinder signs fully decked out in his armor, flying with just a flick of her finger. Even Yang, at her maddest, the Naruto had seen anyway, couldn't do that. At least, Naruto prayed she couldn't do that. Loudmouth brat should address their doctor with respect. Tsunade grinned out through a cheery smile while she squeezed Naruto's face. Out, let go of me, you old hag. Respect. Tsunade released Naruto's face and then gently popped him on the head with the bottom of her fist. While the whiskered boy rubbed his abused head, she shook hers in amusement. Tsunade went over to enter her notes for the next part of the evaluation and mumbled under her breath, why'd you had to take after your mother in that regard? I'll never know. Yeah, me neither, Naruto muttered lowly. He rolled his jaw and grabbed his shirt, prepared to get dressed again. Don't go far. Tsunade cut him off and turned back around to face him. She pulled a rubber glove on and let it snap around her wrist. With her ungloved hand, she pointed at Naruto's pants. Drop him and get ready to cough. Oh, damn it, Naruto groaned, though he didn't mind dropping his drawers. He had no reason to have shame for his body. The blonde wasn't exactly keen on dropping his drawers, so someone who he saw as a grandmother could give his boys a checkup. Is this really necessary? What's wrong? Did you shrink in the tub? You're a perverted old bat. I hope you answer for that. I hope you're aware of that. For the love of, just man up and drop your pants, Naruto. Tsunade snapped. Fine. Naruto undid the buckle of his belt and let his jeans fall. His green boxers with pink hearts soon followed. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and looked away as Tsunade began to inspect him. His eyes twitched. Take a picture, it'll last longer. Do you really want to be smart with a woman who has your balls in her hands? Tsunade asked. Naruto climbed up. He had already had Yang squeeze his boys in a way he didn't approve of. It wasn't an experience he wanted to risk happening again, let alone with Tsunade's strength. No amount of medicine, healing, or aura would make that get better. His boys would be pretty much useless, which sucked because Naruto did want kids later in life. Which would he have kids with Yang? He could see himself having a couple of blues running around and smashing rocks with their bare fists. Elsewhere, on a small island miles west of El, a blonde-haired man suddenly stopped mid-sentence as he explained the theory of hunting strategy to his class. Lilac eyes flared red for the briefest of moments. The chalk in his hand exploded when he clenched his hand into a fist, and the students flinched. Someone is fantasizing about my little sunshine, the man thought angrily. Someone needs to get a boot up their ass. Naruto shivered as he pulled his pants back up. It felt like someone just walked over his grave. Well, there's no signs of anything too concerning, and you already admitted that you are sexually active. Tsunade mused as she looked over Naruto's chart. About how many times a week would you say you have sex? Every hour of each day, Naruto answered dryly. Double that on the weekends? Smartass, Tsunade huffed. She flipped the page up. Weight's good, aura levels are still abnormally high, and as far as I can tell, you're in the best shape among your class. It's my secret diet, Naruto bragged. All you can eat ramen? Tsunade drawled. Naruto merely grinned in answer, and she sighed, but smiled. I'm starting to think that there's something in the broth, hidden amongst the salt and fat. Your parents loved it too, and they were never sick either. Duh, ramen is the food of the gods, Naruto said with a bright smile. He loved being reminded of his parents' love for the noodle dish. Tsunade rolled her eyes and tossed the chart onto a table. Just get out of here, you goof. You're cleared for the tournament. Yes, freedom, Naruto whooped as he ran out of the room. Tsunade shook her head. That boy is just as hyper as his mother was, she said. Tsunade went to the door and looked at the nurse. Send in the next one. So, you from Fog, huh? I've heard great things about the new headmaster, Sakura said as she checked Haku's eyes. She'd gotten the embarrassing check out of the way first, since she already knew him. It was a bit awkward considering their ages, but Sakura was a professional, well, she was a professional when she wasn't chasing stupid childhood friends to the halls, stupid Naruto and his stupid problem with hospitals. At least Tsunade was there to have her back. I've been out of touch since I graduated and fell into an apprenticeship, Haku replied. He blinked out the spots in his eyes as Sakura moved on to examine his ears. So, you and my team were close? Huh. Close is an understatement, Sakura chuckled. They were my teammates before they were yours. We were a solid unit. Naruto was our heavy hitter. Sasuke and I were on support. Kurama was our intelligence gathering battery, and Kakashi was our perverted lazy teacher. Some of my best memories were with Team Kakashi. Team Kakashi? Haku asked. He'd heard it mentioned from time to time when his teammates would speak of their past, but other than that, their lips were sealed. Khan puts academy students under experienced huntsmen, five-man teams, and would use the experienced leaders' names to differentiate them. Though to most we were Team Seven, the luckiest rookies in the whole class. We were tight too, a little familiar. Kurama, the smug older brother, Sasuke, well, he wasn't like a brother, I'm sure you know, and Naruto was our annoying little brother. Sakura answered with a smile. She set down the tool and prepared her stethoscope. We did a few missions together before finally graduating and parting ways. The boys came to Beacon and I went to Mistral to study medicine, eventually becoming Lady Sonate's apprentice. Take a deep breath. Good. Exhale. I'm surprised you didn't come with them, Haku said gently. He shivered when Sakura pressed the cold stethoscope against his back. Wow, that's cold. So were they? So were they, Sakura said with a small frown. Surprised, I mean. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to stay together, but I was only a hindrance to them. Sasuke was the best in the class, Kurama fought scarcely smart, and Naruto improved with each fight he had, even managing to capture a life or so on his own once. But they had to help me 9 times out of 10. I decided that I'd put my smarts to good use and would become a member of the medic corps, the mandatory essential doctors of combat. Medics can choose their assignments, and I figured I would join them later so I could fix them up and have their backs. Well, I think it's a grand idea, Haku said with a smile. Since Sakura returned, you care for them and they do for you. Yes, I'm sure. Like I said, Naruto's a little brother I never had, thank God. I had to give him a firm whack every now and then. I mean, how else is he supposed to learn that he shouldn't be picking on the girls in the showers? Sakura sighed. She paused and gave Haku a look. Don't tell him I told you that. Neither Sasuke nor Kurama know he picked on me. Oh, I won't. Haku was sure to file that tidbit away for later. Kurama possibly already knew, but in case he didn't, now Haku had something to use against his team leader if he got too rowdy. There was a reason Haku's master was a solo act, even if he didn't do the most glamorous of work. Trust was a hard thing to build when it had been broken far too many times. And Kurama, I mean, well, he's definitely changed if he's finally got a serious girlfriend. And Sasuke? Sakura smiled. Her smile became distant. A moment passed and Haku waited patiently. Unfortunately, nothing would come and he would be left wondering. Enough about my past, Sakura said with a sigh as she went over to her counter and looked over the chart. Tell me, what's the old apprentice of the demon doing in Beacon Academy? Haku froze and looked at Sakura, who looked back at him calmly. How do you... Your psych evaluation file prior to the court case was filed out by one of my medic teachers, Sakura said. Her eyes were a bit harder than before, but otherwise her face was blank. You want to make sure I'm not a threat, Haku deducted. That I won't hurt anyone in the tournament? No. Sakura shook her head and gave him a firm look. I want to make sure I can trust you to take care of my brothers. I've been on their team for almost a year, Haku said with a frown. I've known them my whole life. Sakura frowned. The demon is still at large, and your case was thrown out on a technicality. You've proven that you aren't a cold-blooded assassin, but according to Headmaster Osman's personal notes on your file, you're also quite distant, studious over social, and you're more prone to observe than to act. Each mark made Haku's head hang a bit further than the last. Sakura watched him warily, waiting to see how he would react before she made a call. A soft breath was taken in, and Sakura's ears perked up. Naruto, Sasuke, and Kurama are my friends, Haku began softly. He looked up at Sakura with a firm stare, a look she'd seen many times in her teammates' eyes, in her own eyes when a test or practical had her frazzled determination. If Samasa does come back for me, I will not go with him. If he threatens them, I will end him. I am Hakuyuki, student of Beacon Academy and a proud member of Team Nox. I will do all I can to protect my teammate, to protect my precious people, and there is no one more precious to me than my teammates. No, my friends. Haku made a mirror appear beside him and put his hands through it. He snatched the scalpel from the supply drawer. Before Sakura could stop him, the androgynous teen then used the surgical instrument to cut his hand. Haku clenched his cut hand into a fist as his eyes stared unblinkingly into Sakura's. Call me devoted, call me unhinged, call me crazy. I don't care. With this blood, I, Hakuyuki, swear to you that my loyalty lies first and foremost with my precious people. I will stand with them against all odds, help them shoulder all of their pain, and nothing will stop me. Not my old master, not a single grim, not the White Fang, not the Fourth War, and certainly not a doctor with a pen and pencil. Sakura stared for several longer minutes, still in shock at Haku's speech and actions. A beat passed before she scribbled something down on her notes. Then she set the clipboard on the counter and walked back to Haku. She grabbed his wrist and forced his hand down. What are you? Hoffman also said that you were, without a doubt, one of the kindest souls he'd ever met. Sakura interrupted him as she looked over his injury. He said that you deserved to be redeemed for what your old master put you through, that you were bound to be an illuminating force like every other student of Beacon. Sakura took the scalpel from Haku and set it to the side. She grabbed a roll of tape, a bottle of disinfectant, and a pad of gauze. She applied the disinfectant to Haku's cut and then wrapped the gauze around Haku's hand. A bit of medical tape was wound around the gauze, and once finished, the pink-haired girl looked up into Haku's eyes with a smile. Kurma's smug attitude tends to make him overconfident, so make sure he doesn't blow it with this girl of his. Sasuke needs to be social, so don't let him haul himself into a book or training, or he'll start to lose it. And please, please, for the love of God, keep an eye on Naruto. He's too careless sometimes, and it's all because of his semblance. Sakura put her hands around Haku's injured one. Her hand began to glow green, and the sting Haku felt vanished. The gauze and tape were removed, revealing a hand that looked like it hadn't been damaged. Haku looked up at Sakura, more than confused in the slightest, and balked when he was given a light hug. Welcome to Team Kakashi, Haku. So, Yang Xiaolong, Tsunade said to her new patient, reading the name off of her chart. The lilac-eyed blonde that was seated on the bed gave her a cheeky grin. A momentary lapse in vision replaced the golden blonde with a fairly skinned girl with straight red hair, more purplish eyes, and a rounder face. Tsunade had to shake herself out of the sight and let a small smile cross her eyes. How are you feeling today? Fine. A bit annoyed with your pink-haired nurse, but overly fine. Annoyed? Tsunade asked. She glanced down at the teenager's chest and then looked back up, a bit warily. She didn't say anything rude, did she? Not to me. Gave my boyfriend a bit of a hard time, though, Yang mumbled in disapproval. She poked herself in the cheek. Gave him a massive bruise. Well, he kind of asked for it, Tsunade deflected with a shrug. How did he ask for it? Yang protested with a frown. Idiot he tried to leave the hospital. Honestly, he gets it from his mother. How? I don't know. But I know he does. She absolutely hated hospitals. Constantly made me go to her when she was pregnant with him. Tsunade huffed and flipped through Yang's chart. Really, if Minato had a bit more of a backbone. Yang's ears figuratively perked up. You speak as if you knew them. Understatement, Tsunade huffed. She walked over and began to give Yang the basic checkup routine, starting with blood pressure. After that, she put up 2 fingers on Yang's wrist and checked her watch. Well, that's good. So, Yang fished when the buxom blonde doctor began to write in her chart again. So what? Tsunade asked. How well did you know Naruto's parents? And Tsunade looked up and arched a brow. What do you care? Naruto's my boyfriend, Yang said dryly. Yeah, so you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Maybe. Tsunade smirked and looked back at her chart. She set the clipboard down and pulled the stethoscope off of her neck. Jacket off. Come on. Yang frowned as she removed her jacket and set it beside her. Can't you tell me a bit about them? What do you care? They're not your parents. Tsunade muttered. She began listening to the heartbeat in lungs. Deep breath. Good. In. Out. Good. Yeah, but besides, patient-doctor confidentiality, Tsunade interjected. We shouldn't even be discussing anyone else's medical files. Wait, I wasn't. Yang was cut off as the stethoscope was stuffed into her mouth. Keep your lips closed and the meter under your tongue. Tsunade turned around and began and began to look through other charts. So, since you've admitted to being the brat's girlfriend, I can go ahead and mark you as sexually active, right? Arka, mouth shut. Hmm. How often would you say you have intercourse? Tsunade asked. There was a hint of a smile on her face. Yang gave her a dull stare and then pointed at the thermometer. Ah, silly me. Tsunade rolled the thermometer out of pulled the thermometer out of Yang's mouth and hummed. 96 out of 96.8. Good. Now, how often was it? Once a week? Well, we only just started. I see. Tsunade wrote down the information. Oh God, you're judging me, aren't you? Yang asked, her eyes wide. What? Why would I do that? Tsunade asked with a tone of innocence that was anything but. I'm a professional, and you just happen to be the girlfriend of my pseudo grandson, whom was emotionally and mentally scarred by a plethora of girls while he grew up. If I weren't a professional, I would just plant your pretty ass right to the fractured moon. No more warning, no more warnings required. Yang gulped. Tsunade had a sickly sweet smile on her face. The whole time she threatened Yang, putting on the badass pants had to wait. For now, Yang had to put on her blunt hard hat. So, do you have a good side I can get on? Or, this is a very nice wall, isn't it? Tsunade cut in, humming as she looked at the blank wall on the left side of the room. Sturdy, solid, very good at keeping the unwanted weather or people out of here, huh? Yes? Yang asked, confused. Talk about an abrupt change of topic. Yeah, I thought so. So they walked over and raised a hand to it. She curled her finger under her thumb and then flicked the wall. An explosion immediately followed. Several alarms went off before a public access speaker came to life with a chime. False alarm. Just the code LSV, people. Just the code LSV. Yang coughed some of the excess smoke out and waved a hand in front of her, one she thought that she could see without risking any obstruction. A lilac eye cracked open. Then, along with its previous closed partner, became wide as saucers. What was once an intact wall was absolute rubble. Even the framework didn't hold up, and that was made out of imported Elysian steel. Yang forgets sometimes how useful and informative Weiss's nationalism / bragging can be. Sorry about that. Yesterday, that wall offended me by denying me a good window to nurse my hangover near. Tsunade said. She dusted her hand off and went back to the younger blonde's chart. Now, you were saying something about getting on my good side? I'll shut up now, Yang mumbled, her eyes glued to the hole in the wall. She had a quick council meeting and came to a unanimous decision. Tsunade was to be the last person she ever pissed off, ever. To ensure this stayed true, she decided that shutting up would be the wisest of moves to make, a rare decision to be made, but she could see the gleam in Tsunade's eyes that was just asking for an excuse, any excuse to turn Yang into rubble just like the poor innocent wall. Atta girl, see? Tsunade smiled. You're learning already. Now, drop the top, girl. Time for a breast exam. The sphere. Is this what guys feel after I grab them down there? Yang thought worriedly. Her eyes widened and her heart rate skyrocketed as Tsunade pulled a pair of rubber gloves on. In the back of her mind, in a voice that sounded suspiciously like her father, her question was answered in one word. Yes. Elsewhere, the same lilac-eyed teacher from before finished reading his eldest daughter's latest post on Chirper. He was not invading her personal space. He was just checking up on her and her younger sister's adventures. So, as he finished reading about the breach and what a bummer it was to be locked up in her dorm, he was confident that things were all good. Then he came across the picture. Some blue-eyed, blonde-haired, whiskered-faced punk had one of his arms wrapped around his little sunshine's shoulders. Both were seated on a couch with the teacher's daughter in the punk's lap and holding the camera. The both of them held up a peace sign and grinned like fools. The caption beneath the photo read, "At least I've got good company, #BFGF. Like ice turned red. The scroll in his hand shattered. Ninja 210. You must die. End of chapter 30.